How's that for aim? Oh. Oh, yuck! Black Forest is all-time greatest.
Are you not entertained?
Welcome to Fat Profits Podcast. My name's Corey and this is Ben. This podcast is about property finance and more. Here we're going to talk about all things around lending, purchasing, and also business and investment stories. This is not financial advice, this is general advice. We are mortgage brokers, so we do this every day. We don't recommend that you take this podcast and action this yourself. Please take this to a professional.
Well, g'day, Corey. Welcome to episode 2 of the Fat Profits Podcast. How you doing?
Good, Benny. Thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, doing all right. Ready to have a bit of fun today. And hopefully, look, it's pretty important what we're talking about today because it's investing in 2026.
Yes.
Being that it is 2026, if you're an investor, if you're not hearing what we're talking about today, you need to run in some different circles.
Correct.
So it's going to be a big one. We also are going to do our borrowing capacity scenario.
Yep.
We've got a good one around owner occupiers, but I'm going to be chatting. We're going to do investment story. It's going to be me.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be sharing the story of how Benny did his investment. So that's going to be a bit of fun. So, but to kick off, we're going to do some bold predictions for the year. Now, we've talked a lot about this in the previous podcast, and then we're going to talk about it today. But we've got DTI changes that just came in.
Yes.
We've got, so APRA is like cracking down. They're changing. They're trying to force banks' hands on policy, which is interesting.
Investing is over. You cannot invest anymore.
We've got AML 3.
Yeah, tranche 3. Yep.
Is
tranche
coming.
2.
So that's coming in June 30.
Yes.
But we've got interest rates going up.
Yes.
There's a lot of things happening. We had policy changes. I mean, we had banks change their position 4 times last year.
Overnight. Sometimes on the day.
We had banks go, you've got 24 hours to submit your deals because we're not taking them as of midnight tonight. Like we had that happen last 2 years. That's probably happened pretty commonly.
Yes.
Big changes. There's changes to trust lending. There's changes to everything happening. Bold prediction, will you be able to build a big portfolio? I'm not talking like I just want to buy 2 or 3 properties. I'm talking 10, 20, 30. Can you do that in 2026?
The answer is yes. It looks very different. So what was possible in 2025 is definitely, its outworking is different in 2026.
Okay, so what do you think people are going to be doing by the end of the year? What's a bold prediction?
I think besides maybe the first, depending on your personal borrowing capacity, the first 1 or 2 purchases you can probably go to a major lender, a decent lender with a decent price. But I think it's going to be a third tier or a non-bank lending space for quite a while. I do think it'll be difficult halfway through. I do think some banks will adopt caution around it because they don't want eyeballs on it. But I think it's largely going to be a non-bank space. And I think it's going to be more around strategy and more around thought on can I acquire the property and not thinking about interest rate.
Well, this is where I'm going to be different. I'm going to say no.
No.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a portion of people who are yes. I think there's going to be a lot of people, all they're going to be able to do is 2 or 3. And I think if you do 2 or 3, if you haven't got an investment property right now, you won't be able to do aggressive in the next 2 to 3 years. You're going to have to do slow burn.
Yes.
So I'm going to say no because you're going to have to do slow burn. I think, this is my bold prediction, we're not going to be tested for a couple of years, but I think it's going to get better in a couple of years' time, but you're not going to be able to do it in 2026. I think this is a year of consolidation I think it's a different season for most investors. That's my prediction.
Yeah, it's a good thought. And I think it's time for people to be a bit prudent, right? If you can be aggressive, should you? They're 2 different things.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Doesn't mean you should.
So that's a big one. But I think as well, if you have the right brokering team, I think that's what we're trying to do here is if you've got big, lofty goals, you're probably going to have the best chance of doing it.
I think our encouragement would be building in more risk mitigants.
Yeah.
So that would be our ideal.
Yeah,
scenario.
absolutely. So look, in terms of heading forward, and that's probably a good segue in what we want to talk about today. People want to build an investment portfolio.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to pitch to you where we're going to start the conversation today. So for a lot of people, 2026 starting point,
Yep.
they might have a couple of properties. We'll
Yes.
get to them. I want to talk about the person here today who either has no investment properties
Mhm.
and would like to go into the property market.
Yep.
Or, they've got an owner occupier with a bit of equity and they're going, what do I do with this?
Yep.
So can we do it? You're saying yes. I'm saying not the big one. But in 2026, what do we need to do to get off the mark? With everything that's changing,
Yep.
what do we need to do? What are people looking at for 2026?
Yeah. So the instance where you might already have some properties, and by the way, the clients that have had 2 or 3 properties, they've done that in a year to 18 months. So that I would call that aggressive, right?
Yeah.
It's certainly not the 10 properties that we've seen or 12 properties with some clients, but buying even 1 a year is incredibly aggressive to me. But if you're the customer who might already be in an owner-occupier, the biggest thing is getting market ready. What's your position? What's your cash position? If we do have cash and you buy a property, what's your buffers? The strategy around that's important. Are you doing equity? You got to make sure you're not taking out too much equity because it can affect your personal position, right? And you got to be able to sleep at night. So the number one thing is if you're a person with a property and you want to take out equity, is one. Number step is valuations, and if you purchase, what cash do you need to keep in the bank after you buy? And again, it's always that yes and. So we're buying a property. What is that next thing? Should you wait 6 months? Should you wait a year? Or can you go again? That's the scenario. And the other one was someone who is in the property market. Is that right, Benny?
Yeah, so someone who has 0 properties and they're looking to go.
Yeah. And so I'm assuming this is the younger first home buyer age.
Yeah.
20
Do
to
I
20
do
to
I buy
35?
my owner occupier or do I do an investment?
Yeah. So I think the investment, you're probably needing $80,000 to $100,000 to buy an investment property, a genuine investment property. Yeah. And we're looking at a $500,000 or $550,000 purchase. It's 12% deposit. And you're probably, in my opinion, you're probably getting a buyer's agent involved to find a right location and negotiate for you. So you're probably needing upwards of $80,000 to $100,000. That's not always achievable for people. That's a lot of money to pull together, right? No matter how disciplined you are, and whether you live at home or whatever it might be, that's really hard. Which is possible. If you have those things, there's a strategy for you. We can do that. We can get you into the investment market. We can get that growing. And then in 6 to 12 months, we can review how that value is going. We can see if you go again. Right? That's definitely a strategy. The other strategy, we can't talk specifically on first home buyer benefits because obviously there's many states. Otherwise, we'll be sitting here talking about every state. But if we were to use New South Wales as an example, and the starting price was $600,000 and the finishing price was $800,000, you're needing between $30,000 and $40,000 to get in. You're not
crazy.
buying in Sydney, right? You're not buying in some metro areas, but maybe it's a matter of, well, I know I'm not buying my forever home for $600,000 or $800,000. Maybe it's about getting in and using it as an investment. Maybe it's going in, moving in there for 6 months and just getting in and sitting in the market, right? I think that's probably the first step. And I think from there, it's probably in a year to 2 years because everyone's investment journey is different. Some people can go really quick, but at the beginning, sometimes it's slow. But in a year to 2 years, it's around assessing, well, can I now draw equity out, draw cash out of the bank and go buy again? Or is it I now want to go straight into investing, I want to keep renting and living at home and maybe sell that and start the cycle?
Yeah.
Because we've seen like, I think the numbers were the golden time to invest is between kind of 20 and 33. The more you get in and do things now in your 20s, the better it's going to compound. And I think the rate of property growth is around 6.8%. If you were to just hold 4 properties, get them to your late 20s, I think by the time you're 45, you're going to have banked well over $4 million in equity. That if you assume the 6.8% year on growth, and I don't know about you, but that's 45. You're not an old person, right? By the time that happens.
So if you've got an owner occupier right now,
yeah,
it's a matter of just getting a valuation.
Valuation. And,
Talking to a broker, you might be able to get a better interest rate as well.
Possibly, yeah.
And that's an important part of this is like the amount of people I talk to and they've got a pretty crummy interest rate, but they haven't really checked.
Particularly on the owner occupier, I think that's probably the one that you should focus on. Yeah.
And so they do the gardens, maybe give it a lick of paint because the value is going to come, maybe do a couple of tidy up things.
Yep.
It's not going to move the needle huge, but it might.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself ready. Call us.
Yeah.
We'll get a valuer there within, a week or two.
Yeah, sometimes not even a valuer. Sometimes it'll just be
a desktop.
Yeah.
So the cleanup might not even need to happen.
Yeah.
But it's a process of give us a call. We'll get a valuation. And you might be able to get, 200,000? Now you're saying 80 to 100 might be investment.
It's probably enough for one, yeah.
You might be pushing towards 2 even depending where you buy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be, I don't want to overpromise here and you can inflate the figures like some people on social media, like, do you want to buy 7 houses?
Yeah.
All you need is $3 in it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to be like that. But the realities of it is if you've got a couple $100,000 of equity in your property,
you're cooking with gas.
You're in a really good position.
Yeah.
And you might not want to build a 10-20 property portfolio. You might want to just do 3 or 4. But like you said before, if you're in your 40s, say,
mm-hmm.
you're going to retire in 30 years. If you've done that kind of growth, you're going to be sitting very pretty for retirement.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're in a good position. For the person who's, maybe in their 20s, there's a strategy around using owner-occupier. There's a strategy around buying investment. I've got clients, you've got clients who are single in their 20s who have quite decent portfolios because they actually just worked hard and saved hard.
Yeah.
Just ate tuna for lunch every day. We've got those people. They exist. But from there, building a portfolio in 2026, it's not just about a deposit, it's about borrowing capacity.
Yep, that's right.
So
and structure.
What do people need? We'll get to structure in a second. What do people need to be earning, would you say, to be building a portfolio?
Yeah, look, that's a tough answer because there's 30 plus banks, right? So the answer's different. But I think if you're single and you're buying, you're not doing a cash out, you're just buying a property with the cash. You look, I think somewhere between 60 and 70, you can do a deal. I think you can do a deal.
Yeah, you're not buying Bondi.
You're not buying in Bondi. You're probably not buying a property. When we talk about the yes and, for us being prudent, we probably want you to go, hey, you've bought the property. Let's get some wins on the board with that property. Work hard on getting an increase in your wage and build your career, and that will cook away, and we'll do the revaluation in 6 to 12 months, and we'll look at the position. But you can definitely get in and do something, and it's probably not a crazy figure to be earning between 60 and 70,000, and that's living at home. That's you're not traveling every year. You're not doing the Japan trips, the Europe trips, and spending all your cash and having credit cards. That's being disciplined.
Yeah. I talk to people about borrowing capacity. We'll go through this in great depth, but it's income, it's your debts, it's your lifestyle, and it's your structure. It's those kinds of things. So look, the more you earn, the better it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would say if you've got a couple of kids and a mortgage to do investment, you probably need 150K household income.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's probably where you got to go.
Yep.
You can get rid of credit cards. Tougher to get rid of kids.
Well,
once you got them, you can't cancel them.
You can't cancel them. No, you can't. You can't cancel them.
It's illegal in all states and
you can,
territories.
But we're going into some dark places. It's really hard, and that's the thing. Like when you look at when there are some comments like the household expenditure measure, meaning the monthly expenses. It's pretty high for a family of 4.
Correct.
What the banks expect, it's
correct
nearly 5+ K, and you add in health insurances and all those types of things, it gets pretty high. So when you're having conversations with clients, it's what if I get rid of this? What if I get rid of that? Well, sorry, you're already sitting at the expected level. That bringing that down isn't, because the banks will take the higher of the two. If your expenses are 4,000, but the bank's taking 5.5, well,
they're going to use that.
It doesn't matter. So the things you can control are your income and your debts, and not spending beyond means. And saying no to some things is probably a big thing.
And it's interesting. I know I bank with a bank that actually gives me a rundown of my budget.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really confronting at times opening that up. The amount of clients we have who I don't think they've ever gone through their transaction listing. Now, you might have a bank that does it for you like I do. Fantastic. But it's a great experience to grab your last 3 months transaction and just mark everything that is, not non-essential spending essentially.
Yeah.
And go and assess yourself. Because I know if I had $1 for every time I had a client go, this is how much I spend. And people have to declare. As a broker, we give them our portal and they write down what they spend. But then we have to review their bank statements anyway as our job. And the amount of time that matches up is probably 1 in 100.
Yeah.
I remember last year I had someone go, we don't spend anything. And I went through their expenses and they were smashing Kmart. They loved Kmart.
Who doesn't love Kmart though?
I mean, who doesn't? But you think you're saving, but not if you're spending there, you're not saving.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So I think that's a really big challenge. And that is something we can control. You can control.
You can.
You know, you can look to try and get a better job.
Yeah.
And those kinds of things of upskilling. You can go and read some good books.
Yeah.
You can go and read, listen to some good podcasts like Fat Profits, just
I think, and I've talked about it a lot on social media, that Aussie consumer culture, your mate's gonna give you a hard time for saying no to going down for dinner or down to the pub or any of these things. At the end of the day, they're not going to pay your bills for you when you're older.
They're probably holding a sausage when they say this.
They are probably eating a sausage, and their wife's name's Sharon. And that will only be funny if you've watched the first episode.
And it's all about inside jokes for us at this point.
It's all about making people feel excluded from the conversation.
The key thing though in 2026 though is we've named it. There's AML, there's DTIs.
Yeah.
There's all the acronyms are changing this year.
Yeah.
And we could go into them, but some people don't know what those are.
Yep.
And we'll need to explain.
Are we going to go into those?
No, we're not.
Okay.
No. I think at some point we will, but those things are all changing in 2026.
Yeah.
If you've got a couple of properties and you want to go more, the important ingredient is actually having the right people around you.
Yeah. What's
who
the
know
next
what
step?
they're going to do.
Yep.
And so, what are those? Like obviously having the right team. What questions are you asking of your team now to actually see if they know what they need to know for you to invest in 2026?
Yep. I think the first question has got to be is I want to purchase 2 properties this year. I've got 2. What's the plan? How are we going to do it? What's the structure? What kind of banks are we looking at? Those are some of the things that can be answered. If they go in a roundabout way, it's all going to come down to borrowing capacity and this rate and this rate. You're probably talking to the wrong person. You've got to be talking with somebody that's talking about structure and strategy. That's the important thing. And interest rates in investing. Look, we are always going to try and get the best rate we possibly can, but sometimes it's about the strategy, right? When we look at clients that in 1 year have increased equity of $1 million, they don't care about interest rates because you just made $1 million if you were to sell everything, right? Yes, there's taxes and all those things, but that's part of life. So that's probably the key thing. You got to be asking what's the strategy and structure. That's highly important. If they don't if they haven't educated you and you haven't learned something, that's probably important. And if they probably haven't challenged you that maybe you're going to have to make some decisions. Maybe you aren't structured right. Maybe there needs to be a restructure, or maybe there needs to be, you need to offload debt, or you need to stop doing this or stop doing that. And sometimes the starting journey doesn't happen. The conversation isn't today and the journey starts tomorrow. Sometimes the conversation's today and the journey starts in 6 months because you've got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things to get there, right?
Yeah.
And it's about continually communicating where you're up to. So I think those are the important things initially.
Yeah. I know in January I had several conversations with people like, right, I want to have a really big aggressive 2026. And I was going, oh, I don't know if you can be as aggressive as you want to be. And I know there's some people who are a little bit cranky about that, but I know that's critical, like to understand where you're at. And if you don't have a broker who is going to read you, let's talk the upside. Let's talk figures. Yeah, you buy a property 500 and it goes to 800 and you can withdraw $200,000 equity and you'll be away and you can buy 15 properties this year. Like any broker can sell you the dream.
Yeah.
But there's so many hypotheticals. Like you need valuations to go up. Like what if the suburb that you have your property in doesn't go up?
Yeah.
Like no broker can manufacture your investment So I think it's critical at this point that's not just a broker who sells you the pipe dream, but actually sells you a strategy, boots on the ground of what it can actually look like.
Yeah.
And gets you going that way. So look, I think the key thing is talk strategy, ask the right questions, and if your broker's not answering those questions, and I will say this, if you've gone direct to bank, well, no, you're not an idiot. You're probably a really nice person, but they're not going to talk to you about that.
No, it's very rare you come across a banker that actually understands it. And I say that because I used to be one. Didn't know any of these things until I actually left, right?
You're missing, though, as well, a really important thing that brokers have, which is best interest duty or bid. We have to actually do what's best for you. And we will get reviewed, and they will look at the interest rates that were on offer on the day as to why we did that. And we have to provide rationale for the decision we made. And you go direct to bank. They don't need to go, hey, look, the bank down the road does this better, or the banker down the road is going to do this better. So I think it's really critical this year that you need to have people who understand what's happening in 2026. So it does lead a little bit as well into our scenario that we want to do. Now, you brought up first home buyers and buying an owner-occupier.
Yeah.
Now, we did a scenario 2 years ago, again, same picture, of a guy named James on $85K a year. I think it was roughly $85K a year. Could he buy an investment property? And you can go back and look at our wonderful, I think I was wearing a tea cozy on my head as a beanie. But I was in a very cold room filming this. Now, obviously, interest rates have come down since that point again. But buying an owner-occupier can be an important investment strategy as well. It can be, yeah. And so buying an owner-occupier, you're going to need income, you need your borrowing capacity, all those kinds of things.
Yep.
But if you want to build an investment portfolio as well, it takes a different conversation. And this is what I want to highlight today in terms of scenario. Yes, you can buy an owner-occupier earning about $85K a year. Now, obviously, where is your deposit coming from? Different conversation. We're going to do a whole session on building deposits and all those kinds of things, how to get it, how to structure it, how to build it. But in terms of where you need to be, if you're earning under 85K, it's going to be tough to do.
Very. Living week to week.
Yeah. Especially if you've got debt. You've got a car loan, you've got a credit card. Everyone's like, I paid my credit card off. It doesn't matter to the bank.
No.
They basically take what your credit card number is, $10,000, times it by 5, and that comes off your borrowing capacity.
Correct. Yep.
So if you're a single person out there on 85K a year, it might be tough. Now, I did see a paper, actually the local paper here, go, oh, you can't buy an owner-occupier if you're earning 100K a year. Well, you can.
Yep.
Maybe not with some banks, but with a lot of banks you can. And so the owner-occupier dream is alive. It's alive and well. And call me, let me show you.
Yeah, and I think it's got to come down to just swallowing your pride. I think you got the owner-occupiers that, I need to buy in Sydney. Well, household income's got to be $280,000. Maybe if you've got a job where you can work anywhere, maybe you need to take off somewhere for a little bit, right? And just suck eggs, because how many people I've talked to over the years where they thought the prices were too expensive or they didn't want to live somewhere in particular. Fast forward 5 or 6 years, they're still in this holding pattern and can't do anything now. You need to look outside of what you're doing and swallow your pride.
Yeah,
is a big one.
Yeah. But if you want to build an investment portfolio, your owner occupier can be an important part of that.
Be a good kick point.
A lot of our clients are building a portfolio because they bought in an area that grew.
Correct.
Now, buying an owner occupier in a growth suburb actually becomes a really important part of down the track when you want to buy the investment portfolio and build that. So if you're out there and you're a first home buyer, obviously there's stamp duties depending on your state. There's all sorts of benefits at the moment, but there are banks that are doing all sorts of crazy stuff to get people into the market. It's actually, for a lot of people, and you discussed that before. But the key thing as well is structuring your owner occupier right and having a chat with a broker of going, if I get this debt, what can I do next?
Yeah.
And that's an important conversation. So the scenario of the week, if you're out there, 85K is probably a little bit of the magic number. If you're in Sydney, it's a lot higher.
Yes.
That's a single person. Obviously, if you're married and there's a combined income, it's easier than you think out there. And that's probably the key message. But if you have dreams of an investment portfolio, make sure that the conversation you're having with your broker reflects that.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, it needs to be an investment mindset first.
Bit of fun. Let's break it up, shake it off. We are sponsored by both Source Financial and TGM,
Yes.
and we just want to thank our sponsors and say you guys are awesome. Thanks for all that you do, enabling us to be able to help so many people. But we're looking for some other sponsors, and if you want to sponsor the program, we want to hear from you. Cadbury Black Forest here, if you can. We're not sponsored by them, but we'd like to be, and so we're just calling this out now. Do you want to open it? Just do the official opening.
Yeah, I do. How's that for aim? Oh. Oh, yuck! Black Forest is all-time greatest.
Are you not entertained?
So Benny, while we're waiting for you to choose, can you describe the feeling and describe the texture in your mouth that the Black Forest Cadbury Dairy Milk
It's all about
provide?
the malt.
The malt, yeah.
And
So how do you deal with the jelly in your teeth? What's your process when you've eaten Black Forest? Do you binge eat it, or do you have a couple of pieces? Do you get toothpicks afterwards? What's the process? Tell me about
I think
it.
the key thing to take away from this is the professionalism
Yeah, that's
that
right.
you can have by working with me.
First two people to do a refinance and a cash out will send you a Black Forest Dairy Milk. Anyway, fun.
I use my
bit.
fingers to get the jelly out of my teeth.
Do you? Yeah.
So Cadbury, if you're out there
We're here for you.
and you want some quality marketing, we're your people. Now, we want to finish with our investor story,
yeah.
and it's me.
It's you. Yeah.
So long story short is we had a little bit of a leg up in that we had an inheritance.
Yep.
And it was probably enough just to get us into a property.
Yep.
The temptation was to go to Europe and just binge for 6 months.
Which would have been fun.
And look, I know people who did it. I'm unfortunate, and in some of my previous work, I know someone who got inheritance about nearly equal to what we got and spent it in a week.
Yeah, well.
Got a new car. All the kids got new everything,
Yep.
you know. So we made the decision to buy a property.
Yep.
We didn't have great borrowing capacity because I wasn't earning huge. My wife, we were just starting our careers. We were really not earning much at all. Combined household income was very low.
Yep.
I think our first pre-approval was for $400,000.
Wow.
And so the only place we could buy was next to the crack den suburb. And everyone's like, don't buy there, don't buy there. I'm going, well, I can't afford anywhere else.
Yep.
And maybe we could push, but I got to sleep at night I don't have great income, and I don't want to have
Yeah.
$1,000 a week mortgage repayments. It's just going to put me under stress. I'm not great under stress. And so we made the decision to go and buy in a suburb that probably most people wouldn't have picked. And we actually picked a really unique, we wanted a property that had flexibility. So we wanted either a granny flat or something like that. So we actually spent a lot of time looking at properties. And the property we ended up bought was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath.
Yep.
But it was a really bad layout. So they'd actually, all their kids had moved out of home. The lady was 85-ish years old. Her husband had passed away. And so there was a really, really weird layout to the house. So we gutted it all and took it from a 2-bedroom, 1 bath to a 3-bedroom, 2 bath. Immediately added about $100,000 in value. And so we're just living in it. And then we went, hang on, we've got equity. Let's go and buy another property. And we went and bought a second one. We bought another 2-bedroom, 1 bath with a shed out the back that had a toilet in it, which we turned into a studio. We then added into the main house another like a master walk-in robe and an ensuite. We added overnight $100,000 value. We bought a house it was 467. We bought it for. The house across the road sold about 2 months early for $550.
Yeah, wow.
And so we immediately added a lot of value. Again, we bought really close to some really nasty parts of Newcastle. But that was 2015. It was our first purchase. 2019, we were very low risk investors. We did PI. We
Yep.
paid everything down. creating equity, all those kinds of things. But by the time we went to sell in 2023, we'd actually made a ton of money. One, because of the restructure of the house. And look, it's not everyone's cup of tea doing renos. And we were doing renos while working, nearly full-time jobs.
Yeah.
They were tough. 6 weeks, pretty tough. But, to earn $100,000 in 6 weeks through, basically sweat equity is pretty cool. So that was what we did. We were able to go sell those 2 investments. We were starting to have kids. It's a bit of a different season of life for us. And we went and bought a bit of a dream home for ourselves with low debt. And so we're in a bit of a season of that. But again, we've got so much equity in our current house. If we wanted to go again, we could really pull that trigger overnight. So,
and that really wouldn't have been possible without doing those things at the start, right?
Yep.
And again, it highlights 2 things. One, not listening to people who haven't done it before, because a lot of people told you, don't do this. And it also highlights you actually had a leg up, but the deposit you would have needed probably wasn't significant. If you look at today, right, how much did you say you bought that for?
We bought our first property 375 and the loan was 300. So
you need
we need
your less than-
75K plus our, and we didn't have a stamp duty waiver back then.
Yeah, so you need less than 20K now to do that. Right?
Yeah.
In today's,
Yeah.
you need 20K is probably too much.
And the key thing was we bought a house that no one else wanted, really.
Yeah.
Every house we've bought has needed a lot of work. And at the moment, those houses are not moving. I watch Domain. I shouldn't mention potential sponsor Domain. I'm watching the current housing market and there's houses going up that have had their reno. Everything's nice. It all looks good. Buying it, move in tomorrow, don't even need to put a lick of paint on it. And they're moving. They're the houses that I'm seeing moving. And I'm sitting there going, I wouldn't buy the house. The house 2 doors up is $100,000 less, but needs a new kitchen, needs this, and needs this, and needs its gardens done. That's the house my wife and I would have picked. And so I think people underestimate sweat equity.
Yeah, and that's where the property flipping is another strategy as well, which is a whole other skill set and has its pitfalls and all those things. But
YouTube or a good handy friend can teach you a lot of things and you can add a lot of value to your property. The current property that we have now, we've added roughly $250,000 of value to in 2 years. So even our owner occupier, we didn't buy the nicest house on the street. We went and bought the house that had sat there for 5 months and no one wanted to touch because there was so much work, especially yard work to do. And that's the one we bought. And you've seen the transformation. You're seeing like it's gone from the grounds were tick infested. We were covered in paralysis ticks every time we went outside. It was at that point. And we've cleared it and actually done really well out of that. So, look, for us, the investment journey has been a lot more sweat than the average person. We're not doing some of the strategies that even our clients are doing. I'm a lot more involved. There's a lot of I'm not flipping. I'm certainly not flipping.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for the rough cut diamond and where I can add value on a weekend, on a Saturday. And I'm going to sell an owner occupier in a couple of years for hopefully way more than I bought it. And I'm not just relying on the market growth. I've added value to it. So that's been it for me. So if you want to understand more about these strategies, obviously you've talked last week about yours. I'm talking about mine. These are strategies that we can unpack with you. And help you through going down the track. We might not be able to find the property for you, but we can teach you the essentials and help you get the structure right that enables you to do it. So that's probably the key thing.
And look, for you, it was put energy in, buy in your backyard and buy the property that's not desirable, which is certainly a strategy. That's probably the only time I'd recommend buying in your backyard with the thought of investment. And for mine, it was I didn't have cash, so how can I get in? And it was getting in with the right people and putting in my, again, it'd probably sweat equity, but what's my skill set?
Yeah.
And built on that, made the mistakes, and now we've learned those mistakes, and now we're able to avoid clients from now having these mistakes.
It's where you add value. And look, to plug a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about this. But what's your skill set? And I think that's a really important question that you asked, and that you ask yourself when you start. What's my skill set? I come from a background of landscaping. Like I actually did a few landscape projects. I worked for a landscaper, so I understand plants and gardens. So where other people look at a garden and just go, it's overgrown, I don't want to live here. I look at it and go, that would be so easy to fix.
Yeah. Have you seen me with a tool?
Never. And that's the problem.
And that is why I don't flip properties.
So, like, you've got to look at the skill set you've got.
Yeah.
But if you're a young chippy out there, you've got the tools.
Yeah.
You've got the know-how. Just go and do it. If you're a landscaper out there, go and buy properties that have terrible.
Mate, I've had a valuer turn up to a client's house and literally say, your lawn's not mowed well enough, so I'm not going to give you the valuation. Like, that sounds crazy, but like having your garden look nice can be the difference of
Yep.
hundreds of thousands in value, which is crazy.
Yep. And you can do gardens very, very cheaply.
Yep.
It is. I go to. This is my hobby. I go to nurseries and look at their throw-out range. You can, seriously, every nursery has it. Plants that they're throwing out that are, they don't want to repot and replant. You can get them for like, a couple of bucks each. Every nursery has it. And you can go and do your entire landscaping full of top quality Australian natives for, $5 a plant.
Yeah, wow.
And those kinds of things are really easy. Learn how to do cuttings free. And I know I'm getting into weird horticulture world, but this is it's actually that easy. I did when I was doing landscaping, I did a quarter acre, the gardens of a quarter acre property for $250. Full landscape. He did obviously the rock walls and that, but he goes, I need plants. I did all of it for $250.
Yeah, wow.
And so, it's doable, and it adds a lot of value. Cosmetic upgrades, don't buy the property that needs structural, because there's no money in a structural upgrade.
Yep.
Unless it's like the piers are falling over and no one's, it's really obvious. There's a cosmetic aspect to it.
Yep.
But yeah, there's so much value to be added there.
And again, if you're flipping property, talk to a bunch of local real estate agents, because a lick of paint sometimes won't make it.
Correct.
You need to do some research on it.
Work within your skill set.
So don't just go buy and flip a property. You might be in a world of pain for it, but definitely
Well, don't buy and flip a property if it's not your speciality.
correct.
Like, I wouldn't say to you, go and buy and flip a property, because
No.
that would be a bad plan.
That'd be a bad idea.
Yeah, that'd be a property that someone else would buy cheap and have to fix everything you did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, that's it for today, and we're gonna take a lot of time this year to really help people. And so, if you're out there, you want to do the investment thing, stay tuned.
Yep. Go to the descriptions. Contact us.
Absolutely, we'd love to hear from you. Have a great one. Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Benny.